Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about Path of Exile 2 and why this is the most hyped I've personally been for a game in quite a long time. Just a little bit of context first. I never really played a whole lot of PoE 1. I did play the Crucible League a little bit, but only the campaign, never really got into the end game. So this is mostly from a new player's perspective, right? I think there are three major reasons here. Number one is ARPGs, the moment to moment gameplay in ARPGs, I think has felt pretty stale for a while. It hasn't really advanced or evolved very much, especially if you take into consideration stuff like, Diablo 3 and 4. I find the Diablo feels very, very floaty, especially on a controller. There's not really any weight or heft or depth to the feeling of actually playing the game physically. So PoE 2 has taken strides to improve the moment-to-moment gameplay feel. In fact, Jonathan Rogers, the game director, specifically called it out as one of the main reasons why they wanted to actually do a sequel. So one of the interesting things a lot of the other content creators have mentioned is how they're kind of getting Elden Ring vibes from this game. Now, obviously, it's a top-down perspective. It's not a full 3D perspective, right? So there is a difference there, but you have your dodge roll mechanic. You have a slightly slower moment to moment gameplay. There's more emphasis on player skill. Now, obviously, the RPG side of things still is going to be able to carry you if your player skill is really bad, right? But the comparisons to Elden Ring are really, really interesting, especially for the boss fights. That's quite fascinating to me. If you sort of combine the moment to moment gameplay of something like Elden Ring with the RPG, ARPG nature of what Path of Exile is, I think you have a recipe for success there. It sounds really, really interesting to me on a personal level. Now, I haven't got my hands on it yet, so the jury's still out on whether it actually holds up. But from everything that I've seen from the videos and from other content creators, it looks like there is, at the very least, a step forward in terms of the moment to moment gameplay, action gameplay feel of Path of Exile 2. So that is the number one reason that I'm excited to get into PoE 2, but it's probably not the most important reason. I think 2 and 3 are probably more important. And number two is gear and gear progression type stuff. So I think a lot of loot games really, really get this wrong. I think the biggest example from my personal experience is Destiny 2. This game has just never been able to figure out how to do satisfying gear progression. What happens in Destiny 2 when you acquire, let's say you acquire a gun that you really, really like in Destiny 2? What can you do to progress it? You can do a currency dump. So you hold A down 10 times, and bing, you've dumped your currency in there, and that's it. You get tiny, tiny bit of extra stats out of it. You can put one weapon mod in. The weapon mods in Destiny are very, very boring and straightforward. And then there is also a crafting system, but frankly, the crafting system in Destiny 2 is not really a crafting system. It's kind of bad too. In the crafting system, though, you can level your gun up to level 20, and that will unlock the additional options in the crafting table for that weapon. And that's sort of it with weapons. And armor is even worse. Armor, you have more mod slots and stuff, but the armor, all you do is you just do the currency dump, and that's it. You never have to engage with the armor ever again. So Path of Exile 2, man, once you get a piece of gear, oh, it is far from over, right? Due to the orbs and how they work, you can transform your gear. You can add extra mod slots. You can change the gear type. You can even remove the mods and the affixes and stuff that are on there. Not only that, it scales higher into the end game too, so you can do a lot of different stuff with your gear. And it feels like one of the most important things in a game like this, in my opinion, is the gear progression. Once you actually acquire a piece of gear that you really, really like, then what do you do with it? These games thrive on gear progression, I think it's one of the most important factors, and it's one of the biggest reasons that I'm really excited to kind of sink into PoE2 and really learn what the gear progression has to offer. I think it's really, really exciting based off of the reveal video they did there. Go check that out on their official page if you haven't seen that. It's like an hour and 15 minutes long. It's man, there's just so much in there. It's kind of crazy. But number three, and probably most importantly for the longevity of these types of games, is the end game. And man, this end game Atlas system looks so good. It looks just really, really awesome. For those unfamiliar, it will randomly generate a whole bunch of nodes. So there's this huge map that just expands in all directions. And each node will represent a different map, and on each map we'll have a different encounter type, different enemies, and all that sort of stuff. And of course, there are a bunch of different biomes. You've got your deserts, your forests, all that sort of stuff. There are specific nodes that will give you boss fights, and there are like hidden nodes that can give you additional XP farming areas and stuff like that. But this Atlas thing, it looks almost infinitely grindable. Now, there are some limitations. If you die in a node, for example, you can't repeat it. So you have to go find a different way around if you want to continue in that direction, for example. I think having some limitations to a system like this is probably smart for the long-term health of what it has to offer. But man, this, I mean, it literally expands just almost infinitely in all directions. And no doubt there's going to be some really, really cool hidden stuff in there as well. But it's not only that, it is the skill trees, the ascendancies. Man, there are skill trees within skill trees in this game. It looks kind of crazy. The Atlas itself has its own skill tree. So not only does it, expand into all directions, you can level up the nodes through different means in the skill tree to make the monsters more difficult, and of course the rewards, better. There is also target farming type stuff you can do in this system, and not only that, there are the ascendancy trials too, which is actually a separate system from the Atlas, and these apparently do scale up into the end game as well. Now, this is just for the early access launch. For the 1.0 launch, I mean, I can't even imagine what the end game in PoE 2 is going to be like. It's going to be pretty crazy, I think. So there's a lot more I could say about PoE 2. The classes look pretty interesting. You've got 6 classes available at the start of early access. Each class has 2 ascendancies that you can choose between. The passive skill tree itself is huge. I think they said there's something like 122 total points you can put in there to build out your character. This time around, you are able to respec using gold, so you won't totally brick your character, which is apparently something that can happen in PoE 1, which I think is honestly probably one of the biggest flaws in PoE 1, at least from the outside perspective looking in. I mean, that seems kind of crazy. You could spend 100 hours and then totally brick your character. That seems like a crazy, crazy design choice. So they've totally fixed that up in the sequel here, which is really, really awesome. So guys, we're definitely going to check out Path of Exile 2 on the channel next week when it launches. I think I'll do a stream, assuming that the servers actually work on day one. And I don't know how in-depth we'll go with guides and stuff like that on the channel. If I get really, really into it, it may be a regular game on the channel. We'll see how we go. But fear not, we are not going to stop doing roguelikes or abandon roguelikes or anything like that. Of course, I love my roguelikes. It is one of my favorite genres in all of gaming. So we're not going to abandon that. So fear not, but I really do want to add another game to our repertoire, and this game it's ticking all the boxes for me. Honestly, it feels like the game that I didn't really know I needed at this point in time, if you know what I mean. So guys, if you are interested in seeing Path of Exile 2 from a new-ish player's perspective, smash like and subscribe. We'll be hitting it next week. I'm also doing a little playthrough of Settlers of Kalgur, my first ever playthrough of Settlers of Kalgur live on the channel. So if you're into that, smash like and subscribe as well. Guys, I'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy. Have a fantastic, amazing day wherever you are.